air traffic control versus pilots.
Hard right hand turn. I need you eastbound for SeaTac Airport.
Coming up. Hey 7-4 crew, welcome back. If you don't know me, my name's Kelsey. I'm a 747 pilot. My channel, 7-4 Gear, is all about aviation. I really appreciate all of you in the 7-4 crew. Thank you so much for those of you who are sending me these clips with air traffic control and pilots. These would be really hard to find. There's so many things out there on the internet, so thank you very much for sending those to me. If you have one that you want to see on this series, easiest place to send to me, Instagram or the free forum, 74gear.com. In this one, we have pilots trying to negotiate a deal with air traffic control. We have some pilots that are crossing a runway where another pilot is trying to take off. And of course, we've got a funny one at the end. Let's get into it.
This is Jet 868 holding short, Bravo 10. And we're fully ready for a runway 32 left departure.
This is Jet 868. Just verify you're squawking VFR and understand you want a right traffic pattern.
Right traffic pattern and a firm squawking VFR 1200. This is Jet 868.
This is Jet 868. Runway 32 left, line up and wait.
Runway 32 left, line up and wait. And could you just confirm if you'd like us to maintain 1,500 feet for the downwind? This is Jet 868.
This is Jet 868. Affirmative, the pattern altitude will be 1,500. This is Jet 868, runway 32 left, clear for takeoff, and make your right turn for the pattern at 1,500 feet.
There are two different ways that the planes are flying around in the sky. One is VFR, Visual Flight Rules. And what that means is you're not having to stay on a set specific road in the sky, if you will. So when you're flying VFR, you can fly whatever direction you want as long as it's the right altitude, and you keep in mind the different airspaces that you're prohibited from flying into. But generally speaking, there's a lot less rules. The other way is IFR. And IFR is what you as a passenger, when you're flying on a commercial airliner, we're flying IFR. So those are the two different ways. So it's important to understand VFR and IFR specifically for this video, and you're going to understand why in just a minute here. But that VFR, squawking VFR, means you're squawking 1200, 1200 in your transponder. Your transponder is what communicates to air traffic control, and it lets them know who you are, where you are. So if they see a plane that's squawking 1200, they know they don't have to be on any specific route or road in the sky. So it's important to understand that. Listen here where he mentions squawking 1200.
This is Jet 868. Just verify you're squawking VFR and understand you want a right traffic pattern.
Right traffic pattern and a firm squawking VFR 1200. This is Jet 868.
This setup in the beginning of this video here is going to make a lot of sense of why I'm explaining in such detail of how this thing got so messed up in the beginning. There's two other phrases that the pilot uses here, and that's downwind and base. Downwind, the easiest way I can explain it to you is if you've ever gone to an airport and watched planes take off and landing, they're kind of making a racetrack pattern, right? So they take off and then they fly along parallel with the runway they're landing at, but the opposite direction. So when you're flying opposite direction of the runway you're going to land at, you're flying exactly 180 degrees from the way you're going to land, that's called a downwind. Then you make a 90-degree turn, that's your base leg, and then you have one more final turn, which is your final. So that base leg is when you have one more turn to come in to land. So downwind is 180 degrees, 90-degree turn, that's your base leg, then one more turn and you're ready to land. So it's just important to understand those terms because it's going to make sense why this was a problem. Listen again to what he says here.
Runway 32 left, line up and wait. And could you just confirm if you'd like us to maintain 1,500 feet for the downwind? This is Jet 868.
So as you're going 180 degrees, you're on a downwind, you make a 90-degree turn, that's your base leg, and then one more 90-degree turn and you're landing on the runway. And that's why I always laugh at some of these other videos when they say, oh, he's making a 45-degree turn into the runway, because when you go through flight school, you make 90-degree turns. So making a 45-degree turn is not a big deal. Now you understand more why that's comical to me. Now that I've explained all the boring stuff here, you understand as far as what the pilot is saying and what air traffic control's understanding is. I'm going to take off and fly at 1,500 feet around the airport, doing a traffic pattern, usually indicating that you're going to just be flying back in and landing. That's what he's saying, and that's what air traffic control is hearing, because that's what he is saying, And that is where the confusion starts. Listen to this.
This is Jet 868. Start that right turn now and keep your downwind inside the lake at 1,500.
We're turning in the right turn now at 1,500 inside the lake, Mr. Jet 868.
This is Jet 828. Need a hard turn. Remain west of the lake.
We are max back, this is Jet 868.
This is Jet 868. Thank you. Just maintain that present altitude and fly the downwind. I'll call your base turn.
Okay, continuing downwind 1,500, this is Jet 868.
This is Jet 868 in 1 mile, turn right base.
In 1 mile right base, this is Jet 868.
This is Jet 868. Looks like you're just overshooting final now. Traffic for SeaTac is about 2 miles to your west. Expect a landing clearance on a 2 mile final, runway 32 left.
We're departing to the north, this is Jet 868.
So you heard the air traffic controller got him lined up. He got the base leg and got him lined up to get ready to land. And then you heard the pilot say, we're departing. I think they said we're departing to the north. Listen.
We're departing to the north. This is Jet 868.
So essentially what he is telling air traffic control at this point is, I'm not planning to land. I'm planning to keep going to the north now that I've turned all the way around. I'm planning to fly over the runway and just keep on flying that way. Now the controller obviously did not know that because he's getting him lined up to get ready to land, and that's where things get really crazy. Listen to this.
This is 868, hard right hand turn. I need you eastbound for SeaTac Airport, eastbound turn.
We're max bank now, this is Jet 868.
Traffic alert, VistaJet 868, traffic at your 1 o'clock and 2 miles, climbing out of 1,800 feet at the Boeing 757. I need you on a north heading now.
We're heading north now, this is Jet 868.
VistaJet 868, say intentions again.
Yeah, we're on a departure to the north. Our destination is Athens, Lima Golf Alpha Victor, this is Jet 868.
This is at 868. We are not going to give you your IFR clearance airborne. You want a full stop landing?
Negative. Are you able to negotiate? We're too heavy to land. We require to remain airborne for the next 5 hours before we can reach max landing weight. This is Jet 868.
I read online that the pilot that's talking here actually had coordinated with somebody on the ground that they were going to do this pattern and then take off to the north. However, the person who sent me this audio, this was the beginning of the audio where he's talking to air traffic control in tower. Obviously, the tower person did not know about this, and I couldn't find that audio anywhere. So if that's true, okay, but you heard the controller that this person's talking to in the tower has no idea about that going on, and I'm about to talk about that in a minute. But sometimes what will happen is when you're at an airport that's near a very, very large airport, the wait time to get off the ground can be a long time. You might be in, let's say, Santa Monica, which is near LAX. You might have to wait 45 minutes to get this IFR clearance to get out because they have so much traffic coming through LAX, so the wait time is really long for you to get out of there. So sometimes what will happen is that pilots will take off VFR, where there's no rules. They'll get up in the air and get clearance, but usually it's not somewhere so far away like Athens. There's a lot of different points that you have to write down along that fix to Athens. It's typically not what you'd want to do. All of this could have been avoided here. Had the pilot communicated with air traffic control, the guy in tower that's in this audio, and had they said, yes, we're going to do a pattern, but then we're planning to depart to the north, just to clarify and make sure that he understands what's going on and what their plan is, then this all would have been avoided. He could have coordinated all of that stuff before these guys got up in the air. But what he did is he just assumed that that guy thought, yeah, okay, I know that I already coordinated with the guy on the ground. If that did happen, I already coordinated with the guy on the ground, so this is all totally fine. I'm just going to take off and do pattern work, and he already knows what I want to do. It's better to clarify with somebody. If you don't have certainty that they understand what's going on, it'd be better to clarify. Now, if I'm the controller, based off of everything that this pilot is saying to me, I'm not understanding at all that you're planning to depart anywhere. I'm just hearing, you want to do a pattern. So I wouldn't think anything different, just like this controller obviously didn't know or expect anything different until the pilot said, I want to depart to the north and go to Athens, which is a long ways away.
Delta 300, hold for the runway 22 ready. What is the gate number?
22.
Thank you. Delta 253, wind 180 at 5. Runway 22 right, cleared for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, 22 right, Delta 253.
When I was a new pilot and I'd be talking to some old vet pilots, they would always say to me, yeah, I keep a mental map of everything that's going on with the planes around me, and I know who's taking off and landing and what planes are where. And I thought, man, how is that possible? There's so much things that are happening. But as you get more experience, everything starts to slow down for you. Think of it kind of like when you first start driving. When you first start driving a car, it seems like, oh, we're going 60 miles an hour or 100 kilometers an hour. Things are happening so fast right now. But the reality is after you have a couple years of driving, you start seeing and paying more attention and noticing things and being more aware, and things slow down for you. The same thing applies when you're in the sky. So what will happen is when you're new, you have tunnel vision. You don't really hear or see everything what's going on. But after time, you get experience and you get more and more comfortable, and you hear and have a better mental image or a better situational awareness of what's going on around you. But at these pilots' level of experience at Delta, at this stage in their career, they should have pretty good situational awareness and listening to what's happening around them. And if you listen again to what happens, the air traffic controller tells some pilots to hold short of 22 right. Listen again to this audio.
Delta 300, hold for the runway 22 right. What is the gate number?
So those pilots got told to hold short of 22 right. She asked what their gate was, and then later in the audio, she says this.
Delta 253, wind 180 at 5, runway 22 right, cleared for takeoff.
Now, if you were paying attention and listening to what was going on around you, and you heard another plane just got cleared for takeoff off of 22 right, you would drop the hammer or accelerate really quickly or quickly transmit, no, we're on the active runway or whatever. But they seem oblivious to what's going on here, and they're just crossing the runway, not listening to what's going on around them, which is not something you should ever do, but at these pilots' experience, it surprises me. But the controller also has some responsibility here. When they tell you to hold short, you're supposed to read back to hold short. So she should have said, hold short of 22 right, what's your gate? And they should have said, we're parking at gate 22, we'll hold short of runway 22 right. And had they not said that, she should have insisted that they say hold short of 22 right, but she didn't. So she has some responsibility in this situation too. If you listen again, they just read back their gate without the hold short instructions. Listen.
Delta 300, hold for the runway 22 right. What is the gate number?
22.
Thank you.
Sometimes there is a complacency at larger airports with air traffic control and pilots because it's a certain level of professionalism, and they expect that you would not make an error like this because there's two people up there at least that are listening to everything that's going on. And so usually what will happen, for example, is you get cleared to cross a given runway. One pilot who's taxiing the aircraft will say, we're cleared to cross, and the other pilot that's in there will say, yes, we're cleared to cross. And that is an affirmation that both of you agree that you were cleared to cross that runway. That's typically what happens in most airlines. So when they cross this runway, I don't know what the rules are for Delta at this time, if they had anything like that, but they crossed the runway after they got told to hold short of 22 right. They just crossed. Now, when I did some of those flying videos at a smaller airport, for example, when I was out with Stella, the instructions were to go up and hold short of whatever runway it was. And I read it back a little bit shorthand. I said, okay, we'll taxi this way to the runway. And the controller was like, you're taxiing this way to this runway, like very stern. And I thought, man, they're really strict. And then I remembered I'm at a regular student airport, so pilots are learning how to fly there, so they need things to be very clear and precise, and they expect you to be more exact, which is probably a better habit that I should have, but they expect you to be more precise on what you're saying, the way you're getting to a specific runway, because student pilots get a little bit lost easier than a person who's an airline pilot. So sometimes there is a complacency because these types of things almost never happen with controllers and professional pilots. But at a smaller airport where student pilots are kind of spun around as what direction and what runway and crossing and things like that, they make those mistakes. You typically would hear something like what happened here from a student pilot, not from a professional pilot at a place like Delta.
Delta 300.
Delta 253 is boarding takeoff.
Delta 300, you're instructed to hold short of runway 22 right.
You maybe have said that, but I also repeated that clear to cross, and I'm sorry about that. We missed that.
You absolutely did not. Delta 300, what was the gate number?
22. 22. You asked us that, and I also assumed that you said clear to cross, and I repeat that. I thought that's what you said.
I said hold short of 22 right, and I asked you for your gate number, but
Well, that's my fault. I misheard what you said and repeated back the wrong thing.
Delta 300, what would you like us to do?
Delta 300, continue Alpha to the ramp for now, monitor ground 121.9.
Alpha to the ramp, 121.9. Roger.
Delta 300, you still up?
Yes.
Delta 300, possible pilot deviation. We're going to need you to call the tower here, advise you to copy the phone number.
Now, I've had some people say, Kelsey, you're telling people to be scared or nervous when they get told to call the tower. You heard her say possible pilot deviation, call the tower, blah, blah, blah. And that's because you're typically told to call the tower when you really mess something up, like this. You don't ever typically want to get told to call the tower. It doesn't mean that it's going to be bad, but for the most part, there was something that didn't happen the way it was supposed to happen. A lot of times you'll hear pilots when they get up in the flight deck and they'll say something like, I don't want to have to fill out any paperwork, I just want to finish this trip and go home. And that's true. You're not trying to have to call air traffic control, talk to the chief pilot, go to management, do the carpet dance. You're not trying to do any of that stuff. Pilots are lazy. I've mentioned that a lot of times. We want to go there, we want to fly our planes, we want to park our planes, and we want to go to our overnights and go have fun. So this is an example here of what happens is getting told to call tower is not what you want. Doesn't mean it's bad, but it's typically not something you did. Hey, you did such a great job. Give us a call. We want to talk to you about it. No. So I will give credit to the Delta pilot here because once he realized that he had made the mistake, he owned up and took responsibility for it and saying, hey, that was my fault, I misunderstood. But then he said he read about the readback saying that he was cleared across, which he didn't, and you heard that as well. But he did take responsibility for his actions. So I'll give him credit because people make mistakes, and obviously this was a mistake that's going to be a huge learning experience for both these pilots, and they will probably never ever make this type of mistake again. But like I said, this is so rare, and for those of you that are nervous flyers and thinking, oh my gosh, this is so rare, and only the rare stuff ends up on Viral Debrief or Air Traffic Control versus Pilots, so don't freak out. This is not very common at all. Now, as we always do, we got a funny one. Listen up.
Boston Southwest 1774, 12,000, flight level 190. 1774, Boston Center, Roger, climb and maintain, level 400. Flight level 400, South 1774. Boston South 1774, we had that breakfast buffet, we can only make 38, is that okay for you? 1774, I guess that's fine, maintain level 380. 380, thanks, 1774. Hope it was good. It was.
See, I'm not the only one who loves a free breakfast. I'm telling you, pilots are cheap. If there's free breakfast, we're getting up and we're going to go get our free breakfast. And in some hotels, I mean, it's an amazing breakfast. The place I'm at right now, you'll go down there and guys will be down there for 2 hours eating there. It's a really good breakfast. And if it's free, why not eat as much as you can? So for those of you who don't know when they're talking about these flight levels, the flight levels in the US, which is where they are, the flight levels are above 18,000 feet. We switch over from saying 17,000 feet to going flight level 190. That's for 19,000 feet. And that's for every altitude from the 18,000 up in the US. Every country is different. Some people transition at a lower altitude. So this transition, let's say, would be at 34,000 feet or 34,500 feet, for example. You would say flight level 345. So that would be how you would say flight levels, and that's why he's saying flight level 340 or whatever flight level they're using. It's basically just the first three numbers of that altitude is what you say for your flight level. Now, speaking of free breakfast, if you want to see some of the memes where I talk about pilots loving free breakfast, check out this one here. And if you want to see some more pilots fighting with air traffic control, check out this video up here. I look forward to hearing from you. Until then, keep the blue side up.